Greetings. The following is a recorded webinar by one of our own, a member of this community, who created this levels indicator. Basically, what it does is it plots the buy level, the sell level, and finds the midpoint of the levels that I post in Discord every evening. So in this webinar, he will go over how to use Strategy Builder to trade these levels. Hopefully, it is something that he will do continuously, maybe once a month or so. So please leave a comment just to let us know if this is something that interests you. So without further ado, let's take a look at the webinar.
All right, so yeah, let's get to it. The strategy builder. Not really sure what the audience, how familiar you guys are with it, how much experience. I've been working with it for probably 5 years now. Built many through this wizard, and it has a lot of limitations. So that's when I broke out into the coding aspect. So, but in this tutorial, I guess if you can call it, we're going to stay strictly in the wizard. So no coding. There will be some coding concepts, but you should be able to do everything within the wizard. Um, we're going to do two strategies. We're going to start off with something simple, just to kind of get through an initial strategy, and we'll go ahead and test it, make sure everything looks good. And then on the second one, we'll introduce a little bit more complexity, um, with more inputs and variables, more so just inputs, and go a little bit, uh, I guess, deeper into the conditions and actions. So hopefully by the end of this, you can just create something pretty basic. This is not an advanced class by any means. However, if you guys have any questions, or if you guys have anything specific, I don't mind after this to basically go over with you guys on a one-on-one basis. Don't mind kind of showing you if you guys are stuck on something particular. Please hang around and we'll see if we can't open the floor up, and then if I can figure that part out, we'll basically go through them and one by one. So I'll be here for a little bit. So yeah, if you have any questions afterwards, just hold them until afterwards, so we can kind of get through this. Kind of moving on. So we're going to create a real basic one. Shouldn't take us very long. I'll try to explain more of the key concepts and also uh, the major things that you need to check for. Now, since we got the disclaimer out of the way, so one thing to note about the indicator, as you guys know, there's a gradient, right? That has the levels kind of going from green to the red. Now, by default, the indicator hides these lines, and these lines are noted here in this chart. And I've updated the website. So if you go, and the link is in Discord, if you go to where you install this indicator, at the very bottom, you'll see this new chart that explains the levels. And we're going to get a little bit deeper into this because it does involve the creating a strategy. So for the first strategy, again, we're going to keep it simple. Um, the strategy itself is going to be whenever the price moves or crosses this first line. Hopefully, you guys can see my mouse. The line is called B1 or buy one. And so when the price crosses this line, I want to get into a long position. And then when it closes out at this next line at B2, I want to, or basically I want to close out the position. And same thing for the sell. If it crosses below the S1 line, I want to get into a short. And then when it crosses the S2 line, then I want to exit the position. So that is going to be our first strategy. Again, real simple. You don't have to have any coding knowledge, but just laying these simple ground rules initially before getting into the strategy builder is huge. We're not worrying about the quantity of contracts. We're not worried about the how many tick profit because we have an enter and we have an exit. If I'm going too fast, please let me know. I'm not Jim. So all right. So in order to get to the strategy builder, in case anybody doesn't know, you simply hit the new, and then you want to hit strategy builder. Okay. So when you hit strategy builder, it's going to bring up this nice, lovely window. Now it's going to ask you a series of questions, and like I said, we're going to go through each one, and I'll kind of point out the more major things to look for. For now, we are definitely creating a new strategy. So there's other things that you can do, but we want to create a new one. I don't want to edit an existing one. I want to create a new one. So we're going to hit next. Now the name is obviously important. By default, it's going to just say my custom strategy, and then if you have multiple, it's going to put a number at the end of it. For this one, I obviously want to rename it. So we'll say Algodaytrader training, and we'll put a 1 because this is our first one. You can put a description if you want. We'll just leave that blank because I'll probably end up just deleting this whole thing at the end of it. So, all right, everybody with me? So we'll hit next, and you'll notice on the left side we're just simply going through these prompts. So default properties. This is pretty important. Now on bar close, if you're not familiar with doing any sort of strategy building, you have a few options to choose from. What this is asking you is how do you and when do you want to calculate this strategy? On bar close is default and it runs. So if you say, I want this strategy to run on every bar close, then it's, for a 5-minute chart, at the end of the bar, of that 5-minute bar, it's going to run your strategy. Okay. So if you say, well, I want it to actually be more repetitive than that, and on each tick, it's going to run your strategy as fast as possible. It might not get every tick on the NQ, but it's going to be as fast as your machine can handle it, and it's going to try to. It's going to run through all of basically what you set up every tick. And if you have a lightweight strategy, that should be okay. However, if you have something extremely bulky, not so good. So for this example, we're going to keep it on our bar close. However, there's a lot of times where on each tick is very useful. So on bar close, I want to basically know or let this strategy run. So we could see the more properties here, get a little bit more into it if you need to, but most of the defaults are fine. So we're going to hit next. All right, additional data. What this is asking is, do you want to pull in more data? So right now, I'm going to be using the NQ at 5 minutes. However, I can also pull in a higher time frame to use within my strategy. So this is where you would specify a higher time frame and even a different instrument if you want to. We're not going to do any of this because then this is a little bit above and beyond. So we're just going to hit next. Inputs and variables. Again, we're not going to get into this on this strategy. However, next strategy we will. So right now we're just going to leave this blank because we don't need anything crazy for this one. All right. So the conditions and actions. Here's the bulk of it. Right. So as I explained earlier, we want to take a trade based on when the price moves and crosses and closes above this B1 line. And I want to get into a long position, and then I want to close the position once it hits the B2 line, right? So this is how you would specify it in this code. So we are going to, so the top here is when you can add multiple lines of conditions, right? So if B1 gets crossed, then you want it to do the following. Okay. So I want to go through the first one here. We're going to go through a few of these. So if it doesn't make sense now, just hold on. So we're going to add the first condition. We want to close or make sure the price closes above B1. So we're going to hit add, and it gives you a nice little window here with many options. So you're usually comparing two items. You want to compare maybe certain indicator settings or values. You want to compare prices or even other strategies, which we won't get into. And then you have just some miscellaneous stuff. So for this example, again, we want the price to go and close above B1. Okay. So we're going to forget that. I want to say price, and it's going to give you a whole bunch of options. You can say the high. Even if though it doesn't close above B1, the high does, then it will become true. However, this says I want to make sure it's close. So the close is the actual, so on these 5 minute bars, it is the close price. So when this strategy gets run, you'll see that, the close price is what we're after, and it's going to actually come back as a double value. So I want the close, and I want this bar. So you can go backwards. So when it says bars to go, then it will ask you how many bars back you want to go. For this example, I want it to be immediate. I want to calculate on this bar, figure it out with this bar. So defaults are fine. So close, and then what's happening here is the the condition, or basically how is it going to compare to the right side that we have yet to set up. Right now the close is not going to be equals. I want it to cross above the B1 line. So that's essentially how, I mean, just kind of picture this. We're trying to build this out logically. So when the close price crosses over this B1 line. All right, so now I guess the more harder part of this indicator or the strategy is finding the algo day trader B1 line. So hopefully everybody's with me here. So close crosses above, and we need to go find the indicator called Algo Day Trader. So we click on it, and then there are a bunch of options here. For this tutorial, and for anybody else who is going to be using this particular indicator, the CSV file path, if you notice, there are missing characters. For whatever reason, this wizard does not allow you to put in the backslash as a character. Therefore, this path will be wrong. To get around this, the newer indicator that I have on the website will have the ability, if you just clear this out to where it's empty, it'll automatically put in that @ sign. When this gets cleared out, the indicator assumes that this cleared field means you're trying to use the default file path. Okay. So it's kind of a newer development, and it's only for making the strategy builder wizard work. So just know that without this, the strategy will not be able to pick up that data file, which is crucial for this indicator. Okay. Hopefully I didn't lose too many people here, but I'll do it a few times just so you guys can see it. So we're still on the Algo Day Trader levels. We're going to clear out the file path, and the you need to make sure that the actual trade profile is select. Again, we're doing NQ, so we're going to stay on the NQ. Hide lines and hide gradient, it's really up to you guys. I am going to actually uncheck the hide lines so we can visually see these series, or the B1, B2. The rest is fine. So keep the input series all default. Really, the last thing to do here is plot on chart. Yeah, sure. Might as well go ahead and plot the indicator. And then the crucial part of this is where it says value plot. This is the line that I'm looking for. So again, to recap here, I want the close to cross above B1. So I want to change this value plot. Instead of buy, I want B1. Okay. And that's it. So this is set. This is exactly what I want. I'm going to hit OK. And you'll notice it adds this ridiculous piece up here, which is great. If you wanted to get back in here, let's say you want to change this, you can either double click or you can hit edit. Either one. It'll get you right back into that window filling in. Hopefully hit it. Oh, there we go. So get you back in here, and if you needed to make any sort of changes, you can do so. So yeah, continuing on, we want to cross above B1. Well, what are you trying to do at that point? Are you trying to send off a sound? Are you trying to send an email out? You want to kick in an order? That's what this bottom part is for. Obviously, we want to get into the market, so let's go and add a new action. Not as many things. You can add some crazy drawings if you want to. We're not into that. So miscellaneous. Again, you can send off alerts, play sound, print. Not sure why you would want print. Um, but no, this is what we want. We want order management. So double click on it, and it's going to ask you, well, what kind of order? Obviously, there's many to choose from. We want to get into a long position. So I'm going to select long position, and we're going to leave the default quantity for now. The second strategy, we'll get into that a little bit later. The signal name is fairly important. For this instance, you can kind of keep it default if you want, but however, I have just always put a signal name in because when you put in an order and you're under the positions, or if you're looking at past logs and trying to figure out what it's doing, it's going to print the signal name so you can fine tune everything. So, and also see if it's not putting in what it's supposed to. So for this one, I'm just going to say ADT. You can put this whatever you want. It's going to automatically fill in this at symbol and in quotes. Don't worry about it. That's fine. It'll automatically do that. So just leave it alone. I'm just going to say ADT, and that's it. So hit OK. So just to recap, when the close price goes over the B1, I am entering long with a ADT signal. All right, pretty simple, but there's a few more pieces to it. We need to also figure out when to exit this long position, and we also want to do the same thing for the S1 and shorting. So to do this, since we already have most of the stuff already done here, we can, I don't know if you notice this, but on the tabs, you can have multiple tabs. I want to create another one for the shorts. So if you right click on this tab down here, it says duplicate in new tab. All right, so I hit that. All it does is duplicate it. So makes it a little easier when you're trying to modify just a couple of things. Obviously, I don't want a long position, but so let's just kind of start. We're on the second one here, and I want to put in a short. I'm going to double click. It's kind of habit here, but probably a little easier for you guys to see it if I hit edit. Same thing. I want the close, instead of crossing above, I want to cross below. Okay, that's really the only difference here. So we're just trying to get into a short. So when you are crossing below, and I want to cross below the S1 line, and then we'll obviously get out at S2. So I'm going to keep everything the same here. And the only difference is the value plot. We're changing this to S1. So the close, cross below S1. Okay. Now we need to modify the longs when instead of a longs, we want a short. You can either just edit, or it might just be easier just to remove it and then add a new one. Under order management, let's instead go to short position. Keep the quantity the same. Again, we'll kind of get back into that next strategy. Signal name. Again, you can keep this different if you want. However, in this tutorial, we're going to keep everything the same. So ADT, and you hit OK. So we have our entries set. We have one for long positions, and we have one for the short positions. Now, really the last things that we need to do are to get out of these positions. Otherwise, they're just going to continue on until the end of day, where they'll close out automatically, which we don't want. So to get out of these positions, just going to duplicate this tab. All right, so now we have a tab number 3 here, and I want to just remove this because I don't want to get into another position. So cross below, this is for the longs. We're going to focus on the longs. So set 1 and set 3 will be longs, and you can probably move these around if you want. Yeah, you can if you wanted to organize it. Of course, it moved it around and screwed me all up. All right, so set 3 here, we're going to say I want to get out of the long position. So when the close price crosses above B2, then I want to exit my long position. All right, so that's how we'll go through here. So we'll edit, and again, we're going to keep the close, and we are going to, we want to actually have cross above. This must be the, yeah, okay, I did a duplicate of that. So we want to cross above the B2, and you hit OK. So once this condition is met, then I want to close out my position. So we'll hit Add, Order Management, and instead of entering long, I want to exit long. Now here's where the signals kind of come into play from entry signal. So that ADT entry signal, it's going to look for this. So you can get more granular with your order management. However, for this tutorial, we're keeping all of the orders or signals the same. So ADT, again, you just type it in, it's going to automatically add all of that. So you don't need to put in the @ symbol and all, just ADT. Default quantity, again, we're not going to go too crazy into the quantities. So default it is, and hit OK. So hopefully everybody's with me here. So we got into a long position once the price crossed B1, and we're getting out at B2. That's what this is doing. So we're going to do the exact same thing just for the shorts. So duplicate, and going to edit, and we want the close to cross below S2. All right, you hit OK, and then obviously we want to change this. Yeah, let's just edit, just kind of see. So instead of an exit long position, we need to exit short position. From entry signal, again, we're keeping it the same, ADT. And the quantity the same, you don't need to create a new signal. So hit OK. And that's it. This strategy has all the components to make it work. We have entry, we have exit. We're essentially done with this part. So hit next, and we'll move on to stops and targets. We don't need to stop, and we don't need a target because we're waiting for this to go from B1 to B2. So if it does not, and you'll see this, I'm sure, if it crosses over the B1, gets into a long position, but never makes it to B2, it will exit when the S1, when the close drops below the S1 and tries to get into a short, it will cancel out this order and go into a short. So hopefully we can see that. So again, we don't need a stops and targets. This is a very simple one. The next one will actually do this, but for now, just going to hit next and finish. Now it's going to compile, and I don't see the compile. Must have already done it. So yeah, that's it. Then to go back and back test it, let's go ahead and add it to a strategy here. And what did I name this? ADT Training 1. So I want to double click it so it's in here. Keep it sim. We'll do, here we go. We'll go ahead and enable it. Okay. And since we checked that box to include the indicator, it's currently plotting just fine. And I'm not sure if I've set, yeah, let's go ahead and, so we can see these. There we go. So there it is. So this one for today would have taken a long, and then it got out once it closed above it. Same thing for the shorts. So once this bar, it was up here and then it closed below, so it crossed below this S1 bar, it got into the position next go around, and then once, looks like it kind of screwed up there, but close enough. Please repeat the last step. About adding the strategy, or okay, yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and do that. So I'll remove it. So actually, I should probably disable it first, then remove it. All right. So you have a blank chart, right? So we just created the strategy. It's in your strategies. You just don't know you have to apply it to the chart. So the one I just created, ADT Training 1. I want to, you can just add it here, or you can double click and it'll bring it down. Obviously, I want to keep it on the same account or a sim account, and then I'm just enabling it. Hit OK. And then here it is. It's automatically done its thing. If you want to see the performance, let's just take a look at this. Not shabby, but not amazing either. So yeah, this is only for 7 days. So yeah, so it's currently doing what it needs to do. It's, yep, see, here we go. Here's a perfect example. It crossed over the B1 line, but it didn't have enough to get to the B2, and therefore it exited when a short was detected. So yeah, that's the first one. Again, very basic in nature. So the next one will kind of get a little bit more involved with the inputs, so you can kind of fine tune it. Is everybody with me so far? We're going to create a very similar one, just with some more advanced features. Oh, there we go. All right, so moving on. Let's create a brand new one. So we'll hit new, strategy builder. All right, let's go ahead and do a new strategy. Again, if you wanted to get back into the old one, you can hit this guy and basically rebuild it. So, but we want to create a brand new one. And again, the name, we'll keep it ADT Training and 2, because I'm not original. So 2. Next, again, we're going to keep things simple by just calculating on bar close. We don't need to do on every tick or run the strategy on every tick. So on bar close is sufficient. We're not going to introduce any sort of higher time frames or any other um, instrument in this. We just want to keep it basic, so default it is. Next. All right, so inputs and variables. Now, you guys probably want to do, instead of just getting in and getting out at, say, getting in at B1 and getting out at B2, let's say you wanted to get in at B1, but you wanted to have a profit target and ticks of, say, I don't know, you just want to scalp it and you want, say, 12 ticks. Nothing too crazy here, but you just want to scalp it every time it crosses over B1, get 12 ticks. Same thing for the selling. We want to get in at S1 and then scalp it for 12 ticks. We're going to introduce the profit target, and then we're also going to introduce a stop loss. Okay, so to do this, inputs and variables. We're not going to get into the variables this go around. That's definitely an advanced kind of strategy building. And if that's something you guys want to maybe touch on a little bit later on, by all means, we can kind of explore that. But for now, we're just going to create a couple of inputs. And all this is, so when you open up your strategy, you've noticed that there's properties. There's, for instance, with the indicator, there's a property that says hide lines or hide gradient. That's kind of the same thing. We want to feed it a couple of values. So I'm going to say I want to specify and just play around with profit target, and I want to do ticks. Okay, so I want to be able to say, well, what if 12 ticks isn't what I want? I want to do 30 ticks or 3 ticks. I don't know. You can kind of play around with it. So this gives you the ability, instead of going back into this wizard and redoing it all, you can just say, well, I want to be able to do it from within the strategy, not going through the builder. So profit ticks. It's going to ask you what kind of data type this is. Again, this is an integer. You're not looking for, it's not a time value. It's not a string or double. And again, this is might be a little bit over a few of you guys, but an integer is just that. It's just a number. Um, so we want to keep the default. It's going to ask you the default. Every time you create this or add this strategy, what's the default value you want to set? Just, something that would be pretty good. I want to say, since I started with 12, I want to say default will be 12. And there needs to be a minimum of 1. We can go ahead and say profit target in ticks. Okay. So it adds this nice input. We're going to add one more for the stop loss. So stop loss ticks. Now you guys probably notice I do an underscore here. Again, I've been doing this for a while. You can't do a space. Oh, you can do a space. Surprised to let you do that. Used to not be able to do spaces. So you can kind of keep it however you want. But for this exercise, we're just going to do that. Same thing. It's going to be an integer. And for the stop loss, let's just double it. So let's say 24. Okay. So we'll hit OK. Now we just have 2 variables, inputs that we want to manipulate. Once we build this whole strategy, we can just feed it a couple of different values and see if it works better or not. Let's do one more. Let's do a simple order quantity. Pretty straightforward. So we'll start with a default of 1. Go ahead and go order quantity and hit OK. So then we'll be able to plug these in to where we need to, and again, we'll modify the strategy when we apply it to the chart later on. So we have our 3 inputs here. Again, we're not going to worry about variables this go around. Hit next and conditions and actions. So we're back to this part. All right. So again, we're going to let's go ahead and just get in at the same series or B1, and then let's just start that. We'll just get into a long position at B1. So we'll add, and again, we want to say when the price gets or closes above the B1 line. So just remember that. So price, and I want it to close. And probably the more important feature here is I want it to cross above. So you can go a little crazy here. But for this exercise, we want this thing to actually cross. So that bar that crosses that line is when it's going to take the trade. So close, crosses above, and we're going to go back to the indicator. Find the algo day trader, click on it. Again, the file path is going to get screwed up. If you don't do this step, it will not pull in the data. So just clear it all out. And I think everybody that I've talked to that has this indicator has been using the default path. So we'll just leave it as default. That way it'll pull in the path automatically. Again, we're going to keep it the NASDAQ. Let's go ahead and undo the lines just so we can see them. Gradient's fine. And then the more important thing, actually, let's go ahead and plot on the chart. That way we can see it as well. So plots, we want the value to be B1. So when close crosses above B1, hit OK. And again, what do we want to do? When that condition is met, what do we want to do? Well, let's go ahead and add in a long position. Now, remember when I said the quantity? We'll go ahead and modify that. You see, I want to say you can type it in. However, the better thing is you see this little set. So we'll hit set. It's going to bring up another window that says, well, how do you want to set this variable? Since we've already created an input and a variable, well, I'm sorry, just an input, you'll see there's a new folder. It's called user input. I want to click on it. And then here are the three inputs that we just laid out in the previous step. So I want to say order quantity. Hit OK. Signal name. Again, we're going to keep this the same, ADT. It's not paramount to be exactly ADT. It's really up to you guys, but this is what I want to use in the demonstration. So enter long position with an order quantity set by an input, and then the signal name we're going to still keep with ADT. All right, so we have a long specified. Let's mimic this for a short. So going to duplicate that tab. I'll bring in all of this. So let's just work from top down. We're going to edit. And again, we're going to get into a short once it closes below the S1. So close. We want to cross below, right? And then keep all of this the same. And instead of B1, we're going to go with S1. All right, so hit OK. Now we have that condition specified. We want it to go into a short, not a long. So let's edit. Under order management, instead of long, let's go to short. And again, it kind of screws you up here. You would think it'd bring it in, but it doesn't. So let's do this again. So default quantity, let's go ahead and set it to a user input called order quantity. Okay. Signal name, we're going to keep it the same, ADT. Okay. So now we have the getting into the market set. Now, normally, or in the previous one, we kept going because we wanted to actually exit at a specific plotting line. However, in this one, we're not going to do that. We want to do it in ticks. Okay, so we should be done with this part. That's really That's really it. The next part is where we specify the stops and targets. So next. All right, so enter a stop or a target. So we want to add, we want to say, let's go ahead and do the profit target, just kind of do from top down here. So profit target, we already know the signal that we gave it because again, we've been keeping it simple, ADT. What kind of mode do you want? You can specify certain prices. You can say I want $10, whatever. But in this case, we're going to go with ticks. To me, it's a little easier when you start working with these things to do ticks. The value, well, we don't want. Normally, if you did not have a input specified, you can specify it here manually. So you would have to get into this wizard every single time if you wanted to modify this, but we don't want that because we have a input that'll do it for us. So user input, and we're going to go with profit target ticks. And okay, so now we have the profit target set, and this will work for both the long and the shorts because of the signal is called ADT. Okay, so let's continue on and add a stop loss. All right, so stop loss, and again, we're just going to set from the entry signal, which we only have one, called ADT, and it's kind of repetitive at this point. But let's go to ticks and the value. Let's go ahead and set it as our user variable. Stop loss. All right, so you hit OK. You hit OK. Now we have our profit target and our stop loss automatically set. Whenever we enter into the trade, you'll see, the profit target and the stop loss also get added. So yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Again, that's it. I mean, there's not too much more we're going to do with this, so we're going to finish it out, and it's done. So I want to get rid of our current one here. Let's go back into here. Let's just remove it. And let's add our new one. So here's our new one, training 2. I'm going to add it. Now you'll see, here's our parameters, our inputs that we specify. We have a default of 12 because it asks us which ones we want to start it with. So we have profit, targets, stop loss, quantity. All of this looks okay for now because I just want to see what it'll do. But we can go back in and I want to show you the analyzer, how you can take these and really tweak it. So let's just do 12 and 24 with one order quantity, and we'll go ahead and enable, hit apply, and there we go. No errors, which is phenomenal. And let's just kind of spot check this. So obviously these profit targets are going to be pretty small for this bar, but you do see it looks like it's working pretty well. So got a stop loss there. Long drawn out, didn't work out. So this will probably look, oh, sorry, I was going to look at the history. This will probably look, oh, it's not too bad. Better than I thought. But yeah, that's it with the default values. So if you want to take this a step further, since we have a little bit of time, I want to do the strategy analyzer. Okay, so with this, kind of tweak the settings a little bit more. I'm not sure if anybody's really messed with this, but since you have a nice strategy, a custom strategy, you want to optimize it. And it's taking forever to load, so I apologize. There we go. So what this does, there's many things you can do with it. Back testing with larger sets of data. Instead of loading up a chart, you can just say, I want to just run this and just get the summary. However, for this one, I don't want to back test. I actually want to do an optimization. So with optimization, it's going to ask you which fields or which inputs do you want to try to optimize. We only have 3. If I can scale this a little bit better here. There we go. Optimization. So the strategy, let's go ahead and pick our latest one here, the ADT Training 2. All right, so then you'll see under the parameters, we're going to have the same parameters that we specify. We have the ticks, the profit target ticks, stop loss ticks, and of course the order quantity. So if you expand on these, because this is what I want to figure out. Obviously, I'm just guessing with 12, and I'm guessing with 24. However, I want this to tell me what's better. So I want to say let's go from 8 to, I don't know, 24. And what this will do is it's going to run through this iteration, go through the whole back testing for you with these values, and just tell you which ones is better. So the minimum's 8. I'm actually going to do every, because I don't want to run this every single, with one. I want to go, let's just do 4. So the next one will be 12. So it'll start off with 8, run through the whole series of tests. Next one will be 12, run through the series of tests. 16, and it'll basically guess, or not guess, but it'll come back with a which one's better. And you'll see the results here in a minute. So profit target, let's kind of figure that out. Now I want to do the same thing with stop loss. Stop loss is, it's 24 is not bad. It's not a bad number to start with, but let's just say 48. And let's give it a little bit more leeway here because I don't want to, again, run through many iterations here since everybody's watching. Order quantity, we're just going to leave that alone. So if you just keep the minimum and the max the same, it's not going to figure things out. Really, the only two that we want to figure out is what good profit target and what good stop loss to yield the maximum in profit. So next is we need to figure out which instrument. So the NQ. And we'll do the type minute. Don't think it truly matters, but we'll just do 5. At least for this strategy, it shouldn't matter. And then we'll just run it for the past, since the first. We do want to include commissions because that's important. The rest of this is just kind of gibberish. I always like to do 100 here to keep the number of results. So when it runs through this series, if you're really going through and checking a bunch of variables here, then it's better to have a higher number of results. That way you can kind of filter through, and you'll see that in a minute. And that's it. So I want to run it, and it's going to tell me what's the better settings to do. So that was fairly quick. And we have our results. Obviously, the top one here, the performance, how much of a profit I should be expecting, how many trades it entered, and of course the percent profitable, which really liking that one. So yeah, that's this should look very similar to your existing strategy summaries. So if you wanted to look at this, that doesn't look very good, but the biggest thing is settings. So obviously this kind of tells you, yeah, that's probably the better one, but you don't know what settings it found. So if you hit this drop down, you hit settings, it'll tell you profit target set at 12 and a stop loss is at 48, which makes a lot of sense why you'll have a lot higher of a percent profitable. But that's it. So the next one, you can just kind of go through the next one. So the profit target's 8, still at a 48 stop loss here. But yeah, that's it. So guys, that's going to wrap it up. I think at least with this can kind of get you going through it. I don't expect you to be experts, but again, I'll be hanging around if you guys want to. If you have any specific questions, if anything else you want to see more in depth, definitely let me know. Again, this is recorded. I don't know how I will disperse this video to the people that aren't here, so apologize. I don't have a YouTube channel like Jim. So yeah, that's it, guys. I want to call it here. I want to stop the recording and leave it up to you. You know, if there's any questions or whatnot, just let me know.